Hi, everyone. Welcome to our first live Facebook event. I'm Joe Zagami. I'm the director of My Therapy NYC. I'm also here today with my staff therapist. Our intention today is to answer questions from you about coping with mental health during this challenging time of the pandemic. With that, let me take a moment to introduce you to my colleagues joining us today. First and foremost, let me introduce you to our practice manager, Camilla. She'll be running us through how we're going to work today and some of the logistics.
Hi everyone, I'm Kimia. I'm so excited to be here. This is our very first Facebook Live, so bear with us. I'm so excited to connect with my colleagues today. If you are already a client of the practice, most likely we have spoken before, but if not, welcome. I am the practice manager. I'm also one of the psychotherapists here. I mostly work with adults, some adolescents, and I specialize mainly in anxiety, depression, trauma, and I also obviously, since we are an LGBTQ affirmative practice, I mostly work with the members of the community. And today, I want to give you a little bit of information about how this is going to happen, this Facebook Live. We have received a lot of questions on our social media via email, but I also encourage all of you, whoever is watching, to send us questions in the chat. Any comments you have, we will get to all of them throughout the event. And we will also discuss the questions that we have received in other places like emails and social media. Right now, because we are 6 people today, so we will raise our hands, whoever wants to answer the questions, so that we're not talking over each other. But so if we call names, you know why this is happening. But we're super excited. Thank you for joining us. And I'm gonna give it back to our director and the rest of my colleagues.
Thanks, Camilla. Yes, let's introduce our other therapists that are here with us. Let's go with Aaliyah. Please introduce yourself.
Hi everyone, my name is Aaliyah DiGirolamo. I am a psychotherapist at My Therapy NYC. I specialize mostly with couples and relationships. I work a lot with couples in general. I also work with individuals dealing with anxiety, depression, life transitions, things of that nature. So welcome and thanks for joining us.
Great. How about you, Ashley? How about you introduce yourself?
Hi, everyone. I'm Ashley. I'm a psychotherapist here at My Therapy NYC. I work mostly with adults and adolescents, focusing on things like relationship issues, identity issues, and life transitions. I'm excited to be here with you guys today.
Great. How about you, Christy?
Hi, everyone. I'm Christy O'Shoney. I am a psychotherapist here at My Therapy NYC. I work with adults of all ages, both individuals, couples. My specialty is in treating trauma. I have specific training in different trauma modalities, including EMDR and experiential therapies. And I really enjoy incorporating neuroscience into my work and helping clients get a better understanding of their brain-body connections. So I might be referencing some of that today. And I'm just excited to be here. Fun.
Great. Thanks, Christy. How about you, James?
Good morning, everyone. My name is James Coulter. I'm a psychotherapist at My Therapy NYC. I'm happy to be here today with my colleagues. Happy Sunday, everyone. I mainly work with adults. I do couples therapy and individual therapy. I specialize in depression, people living with HIV and AIDS, and suffering from substance abuse. I'm happy to be here with everyone today.
Great. So glad to have everyone here. I'm just looking here just to make sure that I could see the chat. I'm just finally seeing it now. So great, we are ready then. So let's see. So let's get started. Like if you're just coming on right now, just as a reminder, please submit questions in the chat area, comments, questions, whatever it is. And like I said, we will do a roundtable kind of discussion around kind of answering those questions for you. So let's see. We got smiley faces, great, excited for this. I'm really happy. We're so excited to connect with you guys. Like I said, we do have questions, from that we've got this past week. And so I guess I'll just read the first question from there, and then we'll go from there. So someone asked, I find myself feeling so overwhelmed and not knowing how to manage that. what does someone do with this general anxiety and overwhelm? Great question, because lots of people are feeling anxious and overwhelmed lately. So how do we deal with it? So let's see who wants to answer that first. How about you, Christy?
Well, first off, I would say me too, and all of us too. So I'm glad we're kind of starting here, because this is just the most relatable topic in the world right now. This is so unprecedented, what we're going through. And there's just like no model for how to handle it. So the first thing I want to share is just the importance of normalizing that. And not just normalizing it once, but reminding yourself as often as possible, like, this is strange, this is unique, what we're going through. And so to me, I think being really gentle with yourself, and sometimes allowing the anxiety to creep up, and knowing that it's not an entirely inappropriate response right now, but there are ways to regulate your anxiety. And I know we'll touch on different ways to do that today. But that would be kind of my entry point, is being really self-compassionate and gentle with yourself.
I love that. Self-compassion is definitely what we need. Yes, thank you, Christy. How about you, Aaliyah? You want to add anything to that?
Yes. One thing that I stress to my clients, especially during this time, is everything is so new and so different, with this pandemic, and ways that we would typically deal with stress and anxiety before. We have to also find a new way of dealing with the stress and anxiety. So don't get frustrated with yourself if typical, self-soothing or self-care techniques don't work during this time. It's definitely a new time to explore different ways to, as Christy said, just give yourself some space to feel what you're feeling.
Space for your feelings, definitely. Thank you so much, Aaliyah. How about you, Camilla?
Yes, I love both of what you guys said, and like just adding along the lines of just self-compassion. I also have been telling all of my clients to give yourself a lot of permission to just feel your feelings. If things that you used to do before don't work right now, it's okay. You don't have to feel pressure to do this pandemic greatly or perfectly. Well, I know there's a lot of pressure on us to work out, be productive, and all of that, to just give yourself a lot of permission to not be that, and really just tune in with your body and your own needs, and really, again, give yourself permission.
Yeah, I can't emphasize that enough. Permission to feel these feelings and welcome all the feelings, right? Because we're going to have lots and lots of feelings about all this. I see, Ashley, how about you? Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I think just jumping off of what Camilla said, it's really important not to compare ourselves to other people right during this time. Everyone's spending more time on social media these days and seeing other people doing extra workouts or, starting new projects or baking or cooking. There's no pressure to do any of that. There's no right way to quarantine yourself. And just recognizing that sometimes even focusing on meeting our basic needs can feel like a stretch. So give yourself that self-compassion and just recognize that there's no right way to do this. No one's figured this out yet, and do what you need to do to take care of yourself and your family.
Great. James?
Yeah, listen, I agree with what everyone said so far, especially Ashley. I just want to chime in on what you just stated. It is so important to make sure that we're meeting our basic needs, right? And to allow the space and time for those things that we know that we need. And this isn't something that we've done before. So it's not like we're experts at this. We're going day by day. Information is changing day by day. So our moods is going to shift day by day. So be patient with yourself, allow yourself space and time for those feelings, and we'll all get through this together.
Great. So let's move to the next question. I see that we do have a bunch of comments, which is great. I love that. Do send those our way. Brent, it says, great, thanks. Looks like a great group with diverse specialties. Thank you. Yes, we do have a staff of many specialties and a great staff. So I'm very proud of being part of this group. I see something over here. Jane, kind of thanks for opening up this conversation to all of us. Yes, we are excited and really happy to be here. Let's just see other ones that are coming in. Someone's excited and happy to join us, join with us. A big fan of the practice and always follow us on social media. Thank you. yes, we really appreciate when people do follow us, and kind of we want to find a way to kind of reach so many different people on all different platforms. So great. So please do continue to send questions. I guess let's look at maybe another question. Yeah, let's see, Camilla. We have questions from social media, so let me look at another one here. My partner and I live in a small apartment and find ourselves fighting a little bit more than usual. Any thoughts on how to break the tension? Great, okay. So yes, we're in small apartments and we're with people that we love, but still could have lots of, stuff going on. So I see, how about you, Camilla?
Yes, I also work with couples, and this has been coming up with most of my couples. And I think there's this pressure of, if we are now under quarantine, that we have to spend a lot of time with each other. And I do think that, especially right now, while we are under the same roof, we still need to have our own space and do the things that we always do on our own, to just have some alone time and have space to do things that we enjoy, and also spend some time with our partner. And another thing that I have been just telling my couples is to do a lot of fun things, fun activities that's interactive, like building puzzles, Legos, things that you're not just sitting and watching TV, that you are actually socializing with each other. And even another thing would be, I know that we can't have date nights, we can't go out, but maybe create some of that within the boundaries of the quarantine together. So that would be my suggestion.
Great, great. Aaliyah, I know that you work mostly couples in the practice, so I would love to hear your thoughts on this.
Yeah, so a lot of my couples are definitely having this issue, and I will say I can empathize. I'm relating myself. My husband and I do live in a small apartment in New York City, and I think one of the biggest things I've realized with my couples especially is the tension is coming from this anticipation and this feeling that we need to have this perfect. And if we're fighting, disagreeing, and things aren't going right, then maybe we're not meant to be. And I tell everyone, let's take that pressure off, because all of those seemingly important things kind of go out the window during this time, and we need to kind of take it down to what is the stress level. Maybe talk about the quarantine. I know everyone is sick of talking about it, but what feelings are coming up for you below the surface? Are you anxious? Are you sad? We're all going through a grief process, right? Grief of the world that we used to know, and what we had at one point, and what is the unknown coming up. So having time to talk about that, set apart time specifically, knowing that this is kind of part of the discussion that we're going to have, with our partner, and then try to reframe. I think, Camilla, what you said is so wonderful, and I encourage my couples to do that all the time. Set aside time for that date night that, yes, you're spending time together all the time, but those date nights and those important moments together are still very important during this time.
Yes, for sure. How about you, James? Anything you want to add?
Yeah, definitely, for sure. Listen, I think that this is a good time for couples to really get closer with their communication skills, right? Because we're going to need to know what the other person is thinking during this time. So through my work, I encourage couples to talk more, communicate, understand what their partner needs, and be honest with what they can give, recognize their own limitations. Can I accommodate my partner with this? Can I do this for them? Will they do this for me? And being able to offer those things without feeling like you have to give up your needs, right? So you want to also compromise. I can do this for you. We can do this for each other. And I really like the idea about the date nights, even though it's a little bit challenging to get out and do that, but you can create that space in your house. You can create that space and have that special dinner with a candlelight if you choose, and enjoy each other's company like that. I've noticed with the couples that I've been working with through this, tension has come up, but one of the things that has grown is their ability to communicate with each other. So I'm really excited to see how this progresses along, and when we get on the other side of this, how their communication continues to grow.
Yes, and it's definitely possible to have a date night. I just had a couple that I've been working with, and they just celebrated a 25-year anniversary. And what they did, they made sure to order food from a really, really nice restaurant, and they got dressed up. And even though they went from the bedroom to to the table right next, in the kitchen table right next door in their own apartment, they still made it possible, right? And still had their together time. So there is a way to still kind of reframe it in a way and still enjoy those date nights.
Joe, I do see that we have a lot of comments
Great.
and questions coming up.
Right, so let's see. Anybody in particular? Let's see. Let's find someone. Let's see. So hi, I'm a mom of 3 girls with 1 testing positive for the virus. She is well. However, my other 2 daughters feel anxious about the day-to-day living. How do I reassure my younger daughters that they should not worry about what they cannot control when sometimes I'm feeling anxious myself? Great question. Anybody want to take a stab at that one? Let's see. Okay, right here. Oh. So how about you, James?
Yeah, I think that's a great question. First, I'd like to say I'm really happy that your daughter is doing fine now. I know that had to be a scary experience for you and your family. How do you have this conversation with your other children? Be honest with them. Be honest with them. Let them know how much this impacted you, how much it frightened you, if it did, which I'm sure it did. Explore their fears. What are they thinking? What are they feeling? What's their perception of interacting with their sister after knowing that she tested positive? Because these are all things that can come up that they might not talk about. So create a space to have an open and honest conversation about how the coronavirus impacted your home, how it got into your home and impacted one of your children. And it touches me deeply to hear this story, because anytime that we hear these numbers on the TV screens, their faces and their families attached to these numbers. They're not just numbers. These are people that are impacted in many different ways. And it's so sad to hear when someone has been impacted, but it's such a relief to know that they were able to recover from it. And one of the good things about this, I'd say, is that your daughter that tested positive, I imagine that her plasmas can be used for other people, and perhaps, and they're looking for people to donate that to help people survive. So she's actually an asset to your family right now, and I'm really happy that she's doing well. And I encourage you to have conversations with your family about this and express your fears openly, because they're valid.
Yes, all feelings are valid. How about you, Ashley? What would you like to add?
Yeah, I completely agree with James. I think that having that open communication is really important. These are new fears, right? And sometimes the newest fears can be really, really strong, and we may not know what to do with those. And it can be hard when you feel responsible for the care of other people and recognizing that like you have to put on a brave face. But in some ways, being able to share with them that like you don't always know either, right? And that you're there for them, and just showing them that, you can have this conversation, and that, you recognize that like this is scary, it can help really validate their own feelings as well, and recognize that they have that support.
Christy, what would you like to add? Oh, actually, I think you're on mute.
I'm muted. Definitely want to add my empathy here. I mean, it is hard enough being a parent home with your children during this time, and then to have just this direct connection to what's happening in the world right now, I think must be just doubly hard. I think the question asker had a really interesting sense when she said, like, what are the things that my children can control and can't control. And I think labeling that as much as possible, that there is so much outside of the realm of our control right now, but there are some very small things that are within our control. And that can even be breathing, that can even be just like feeling the space around you. And even I just want to echo my colleagues that validating children's emotions in particular during this time, saying this makes sense that you're feeling sad or scared or disappointed, goes such a long way. So I think that's really important.
Yeah, very important. I know we're getting a lot of questions and comments. This is great. So Camille, anyone in particular you want to maybe could even read out to us too? Because I'm noticing that my screen is actually not seeing the necessarily all these questions. So
Sure. I see we have one here that says, I'm a journalist and I have read and analyzed all the news in details every day. How can I balance the stressful news with having a normal, happy life? What can I do to prevent this daily stress from affecting my life and mood? Which I think is such a valid question, because we are being bombarded by the news alerts 24/7, and it can be exhausting. It can be so emotionally draining and also very stressful. So I think it's a really good question. How can we monitor that anxiety? So I see, Ashley, you have your hand up. Maybe you can start.
Yeah, this is something that comes up with my clients a lot right now, is just being completely bombarded with the news and social media, and knowing what is fact and what is fiction. And really, the best advice that I feel like I can give during this time is pick the sources that you really want to rely on and check those to stay informed, and allow yourself the space to take a step back and build a boundary between yourself and the consumption of news and social media, and be able to fill that space with something that really nourishes you during this time. As Aaliyah talked about in a previous question, that may not always be the same way that we took care of ourselves before this time. So find out what that thing is that you need to do for yourself, right? It might just be something as simple as breathing, or having a snack, or doing some few yoga poses. Whatever is the thing that you need in that moment to be able to feel like you have control over how much you're consuming, can really go a long way to making you feel a little bit less anxious about everything while still being informed.
sure, of course, knowing yourself, knowing what you can tolerate and what you can't, and just being informed, right? How about you, Aaliyah?
I know with some of my individuals, they kind of have the same concerns as well. And I imagine being a journalist, taking in all of this information, it might, as you said, it feels like overload 24/7. I suggest to some of my clients, people who feel comfortable journaling or even vlogging, right? Like recording yourself talking about everything that's overwhelming you and why, and just maybe even just crying, right? Letting that expression out is super important. So I tell my clients, be intentional with that time. If you feel like you're just getting the news all the time, you can set aside a couple minutes. It could be something as short as 2 minutes to 20 minutes or whatever the case may be, and really let yourself feel those emotions, and then set that aside and do things that help you engage in self-care, so you can kind of reset and refocus.
Anything you want to add to that, Camilla?
Yes. The only thing that I would just add is that, just going along what I said before about giving yourself permission, I think I know that there's a lot of pressure to always be informed and wanting to know what's going on around the world, and also following people on social media, to just give yourself permission to, if you have to, maybe unfollow some of the people who are giving you anxiety and stressing you out for the time being, and just giving yourself permission to, if you are feeling stressed out, if you are feeling anxious, to unplug from social media, to maybe even like turn off your notifications that you get on your phone, like the news notifications that you get, especially as a journalist. I can imagine that during the day you have to work, but when you come home, to just give yourself permission to unplug from your job.
Yeah, unplugging is so important. I'm looking at here another question from Paula on Facebook here. Should couples add extra stress to their relationship by talking about what the world may look like when this is all over? And she also asked, what advice do you have for those people who are just anxious about the future? So it's kind of like a two-part question. I just know for myself, again, giving yourself permission to feel. So I know for myself, even the unknown is what is a little unsettling, right? And I know for myself, really owning, kind of owning those feelings and being like, oh, I'm disappointed by it, I'm sad by it, and learning to vocalize that. So let's see from my other colleagues here. How about you, Christy?
I think this is a great question, because I think there is an assumption sometimes that if you start to talk about the future, if you start to talk about the things that you're afraid of, it's just going to raise your activation. And during this time where you need to be relying on each other, I think that can pose a real threat. But I think something we tend to recognize, at least in the field of mental health, is that, actually suppressing emotion tends to lead to anxiety anyway. So sometimes it can just be really valuable to very honestly name your feelings with your partner about what you're thinking about the future, and everything that's coming up along with that, because the truth is that it's going to manifest in some way or another, right? The stress will show up. And so better to have a direct conversation than for something to get bottled up and kind of explode in a way that's outside of your control.
Good point. Great point. And you, James?
Yeah, listen, I definitely agree with what you said, Christy. One of the things that we suffer the most from as humans is that we try not to feel the things that are painful. And when we try not to feel those things, we push them down and they show up in some other form. So emotional suffering is part of life, and it's good to understand that and not push it away because it can show up in a different way. What will happen when we get to the other side of this? We don't know, right? But we do know that we've never experienced this before and that we're learning as we go. Hopefully, and I'm pretty sure that we will get to the other side of this, and having some anxiety about what that may look like is normal, right? I mean, it's really normal to know, to feel anxious about what will happen after this, especially being in such a trying time right now. One of the things that many people are suffering with is trying to have control over something that we have no control of. So what I would suggest is allow yourself space and time, like I said a lot today, the space and time for your thoughts and feelings so that you can understand what's coming up for you, right? Understand what's happening for you. And being honest with yourself. You don't know what things will look like when you get to the other side. But be hopeful, be mindful, and trust that things will work out. Things will work out.
Be mindful and hopeful. I love that, James. Thank you. How about you, Ashley? Anything you want to add to that?
I love everything that was just said. I think from a very tactical perspective, one thing that I've been reminding my clients of is, you're the only one who knows what your tolerance is for thinking about the future. Some people want to think very far into the future and what this might look like if it gets worse or when it gets better. And some people may only be able to handle thinking about what's going to happen today, right? And knowing your tolerance and your partner's tolerance for that and speaking up for those needs and on behalf of it, especially if your tolerance is different than your partner's, I think is really critical in this time to make sure that you do feel a sense of control, right? That is one thing in this world where we feel so out of control right now, that we have control over, is building those boundaries.
I think we have one question here. Oh, I see. Maybe we want to spend more time on this question.
Go ahead.
There's one that is asking any advice for handling friends, family who say or post frustrating things like conspiracy theories, lack of social distancing on social media. I know we can block them, but that can also leave us feeling more alone. So what do we think of this?
How to handle that? Yeah. How about you, James? You want to take a stab at that one?
Sure. Listen, many people are experiencing different things right now, and some are responding in ways that are comfortable for them. And sometimes conspiracy theories can allow people to feel like they have a sense of control of what's happening because they're trying to understand what's happening, so they justify it in their mind in some way. And if a story fits for them, then they may run away with that and seek validation in that. Many people know that social media is a source of validation. So it doesn't surprise me to see those comments come out. I've seen them as well. And again, I allow the space and time for those people to have those thoughts and feelings because they're just as valid as the other people that are thinking different things. I know it can be challenging when you see your family and friends thinking in these ways because it makes you wonder, well, gosh, this is my family. These are my close people that I trust and love, and they're saying these things. And why are they saying these things? It's only upsetting me. But keep in mind that they need to be able to express themselves too. All right?
Great. Well, then we have a lot of comments here too, and I just want to say some of those. I know Jane is saying, James, let the feelings out through discussion, including playful moments. Thank you for that, Jane. Let's see, other ones. Any exercises for imagining the future? Anybody want to? I guess we don't know the future, so I know that it's an unknown. So I think being more in touch with those feelings that are coming up for us, but also knowing that I think things will change. It's kind of for myself, like just to know that things will change and we will create our own routine and our own new reality and our own new normal. How about you, James? I see your hand is raised.
Yeah, listen, be optimistic. Be optimistic about the future. We have two alternatives. We can think about the future in an optimistic way, or we can surround ourselves with fear about it, right? And I choose to be optimistic about it. I think that when we think positive things, that we feel better about ourselves. We trust more. If we go down a negative path of thinking, we will most likely connect ourselves to those negative thoughts and feelings, and then we will have those emotions as if we're living in that negative space already. So if you're thinking that the other side of this will be devastating and you're pondering on that, you're going to connect to that emotionally as if you're living in that space. So I encourage you to think about how things will be great once we get through this, and how it's going to be a great thing for you and your family and friends and all of those things, because that will make you feel better.
Yeah, reframing it in some way,
Yeah.
From the negative to the positive. What could we imagine? What could be positive from this? What opportunities could this create? How about you, Christy? What would you like to add?
I tend to think that acceptance is kind of a combination of two things. It is recognizing what you wish would happen, what you wish could be true, and what you can reasonably expect to be true, and finding a way to gain some middle ground between the two. So I'm thinking about the future. You might wish that you could still be employed and that you could do all of the things that you did before the pandemic. And of course, the reasonable expectation might be that that might not be the case. And so in terms of your agency there, I think what you can do is grieve some of the stuff that won't be coming back, right? Life as we know it will be a little bit different. And so we keep talking about making space for feelings, but it just is so important to really allow yourself to feel the things that you're feeling. And I think that does go hand in hand with optimism, because we need to be recognizing the parts of us that are looking forward to the future too.
Leah, would you like to add anything to that?
Yeah, just something small. James, you had used the word hope before, and that's kind of just stuck in my mind, since a couple questions ago. And I think what I would love to add is, utilize what inspires you with hope, like what inspires you to think about hope. And I would even go as far, I'm a huge fan of Post-it notes. I don't know why, it's a weird thing, but like write hope on a Post-it note and stick it on your mirror in the bathroom. And, that'll just give you, I think, a great way or a great precedent for thinking about the future with hope in mind.
Great. So let's look here, kind of see what's happening on Facebook. Let's see that I see another person wrote, Shelley says, do you have any advice for anyone out there who lives by themselves and are missing out on giving a hug or receiving a hug from somebody? Great question. A lot of people are definitely talking. A big theme that I've seen in my practice is isolation and really being on our own and not physically allowing ourselves to be with people, right? Because we can't, right? And so, especially if we're, all by ourselves. So how are people handling that? Let's see, who wants to take a stab at that? James?
Sure. So I live alone, and it's been really challenging for me. I totally can relate to that. So one of the things that I do, it's going to sound silly, but one of the things that I do in the morning is I give myself a big hug. I give myself a big hug, and I tell myself something good, and I try to get closer to that idea of hope. Because when you live alone, going through something like this is scary. It's really scary, So what I try to do to help myself during these times is I reach out to family, whether I'm talking to them on the phone or through Facebook or through FaceTime or through Zoom. I try to connect myself with them in those ways. Be patient, be patient, you know, be good to yourself, right? Create things for yourself to do, you know, cook meals that you probably wanted to try to cook, but you know, maybe really wasn't that good at it. You know, I burnt a few, but I've also made some pretty good stuff too. So just try to embrace that, give yourself big hugs, and know that you're going to get through this. That's my hope. That's what's keeping me going. So I hope that you can take some of that away for yourself.
Wow, James. Because it sounds like you're giving yourself just so much self-compassion, which is so important during these times, right? And even though we're physically different, you know, distant from people, we don't have to be socially distant, right? And so I know for myself, you know, even though I can't see certain people physically, I could, you know, still connect with them socially, whether it's virtually or giving them a phone call or whatnot. So I think it is something for me I have to always remind myself. And I love the thing that you said about the self-hug. I'm going to definitely use that.
I also just I love the hug. I was actually going to say the same thing. And it's just so powerful that you feel that self-love coming through. And to take it one step further, if you are missing that connection with another person, you can even do the self-hug with another person. If you FaceTime them, if you video chat, both of you can at the same time hug and just feel that love.
Great. Thanks, Camilla. Let's look at another question. I know, and if we accidentally missed your question, please maybe even ask it again. And if you're just joining us now, definitely feel free to ask questions. I guess, you know, again, it's our first time doing this, so we're trying to kind of keep up with the questions. I see Alma says, what would you say to a pregnant mother during this time? Any advice on how to mentally prepare for bringing a child into this world during all of this uncertainty? Great question. How about you, Ashley?
I love this question. I think it's really important for us to make space for the good things when we're surrounded by a lot of uncertainty. And I've heard a lot of my clients say that they feel guilty celebrating anything right now. And they feel like there's so much going on in the world. There's so many people who are impacted by this virus, whether directly or indirectly. And it's really hard for them to sit and feel the positive feelings of something that's so wonderful and so life-changing. And so I think the challenge is going to be in something that, you know, try to make space for the positive emotion, right? And let yourself feel really good about this and connect with people who are so excited for you too, right? Everybody wants to be able to celebrate this in person, and that can be really challenging, but just making sure that you're still making space for that celebration, because this is such a wonderful thing. And, you know, I'm sending you my congratulations from afar as well.
Yeah, that's such an important part. I've been hearing a lot of my clients talk about guilt and kind of what to do with it, like feeling fortunate because they didn't lose a job, or, you know, because they have their family with them in the house and whatnot. And I've been just telling them, just feel those feelings too, feel fortunate, feel the gratitude, and also know there's a range of other feelings too that might come out of that, right? And so one who's very fortunate could also feel even disappointed or angry or frustrated about what's going on. So to feel all those ranges of feelings. So if someone is pregnant, they could be scared and nervous and feeling, you know, all that stuff with the uncertainty, but also feeling so excited, right? And to go with that as well. Let's look at another question. Anything you see, Camilla, that you want me to just look at? Just because I see so many different comments, which is great. I'm really loving that people are feeling connected to us and letting us know. So let's see. Jane says, Christy, I love your comments about the future, about grief and, you know, acceptance. So thanks, Christy. It's great.
We have a question with Lydia. That's the last comment that I see here.
Great. Yes. When social distancing guidelines relax, will there be differences of opinions about seeing family and friends that have not been in our bubble? Any advice to manage that? James?
Yeah, so sure. I mean, it's going to be different, right? Because we've learned something, right? And with learned behavior, we walk away with an experience. So even though this isn't something that we wanted to learn, but it happened. So we can't erase it from our mind, right? So what I suggest is to be careful, right? Be careful, because there will be some people that will be uncomfortable with connecting the way they used to connect, you know? So be mindful of the people that you do want to connect with, right? Maybe it's only your immediate family circle right now for the first month or few weeks or so. Craft it in a way that it will be safe and feel comfortable for you. You don't want it to be a stressful thing. So I've already said with my family, and many of us have said as well, when we do start to congregate again in a way, we will be, hello, how are you kind of thing, not so much of the hugs and kisses and shaking hands, at least for a while, because we want to just make sure that things are going to move in the right direction. So while it would be nice to be amongst family and friends again, let's just make sure that when we do that, we're mindful and careful.
Great, great, James. Ashley, anything you want to add to that?
I completely agree with James about being mindful of what other people want. I think it's also important to understand your own limits. There are going to be, I think to the first part of the question, there are definitely going to be differences of opinion. We see it already with, with the current restrictions and guidelines. And I think knowing your own limits and communicating that clearly, right? If you don't want to greet people by touching them, but other people feel like, oh, it's fine, it's not a problem, you should be able to set those boundaries and just recognizing where you're comfortable and where you're not, and really being clear about that communication with other people so that they know and they don't inadvertently overstep your boundaries as well.
Right, right. I'm seeing some of these comments, which I'm really liking. Alma's just saying how this forum is very interesting and allows us to think, allows me to think, and it's giving me a great tool. So yes, I'm so happy to offer this. We're very happy to be here and connect with you guys. Let's see, any other questions? Let's see. I know we had a lot from our social media, and I just want to pull those up. We might have answered this already, but everyone else is being productive during this time, working out, learning a new skill, launching a side project, and I could barely manage to make it through the day without breaking down. How do I motivate myself? So it's a good question, because I know a lot of people could be hard on themselves during this time, and seeing everyone taking, doing so much. So how about you, Camilla?
I think, again, it goes back to everything we've talked about: self-compassion, self-love, giving yourself permission, and not putting so much pressure on yourself to win this quarantine and come out of this just an improved person and a new person with all these side projects. Because again, when we are dealing with a pandemic, this is trauma. This is a lot. This is bringing up a lot. And when we are dealing with trauma, when we are dealing with a pandemic, something that we've never dealt before, we just can't learn new things. A lot of us, at least, don't have the mental capacity to learn a new hobby or learn a new language, for example. And all we can do is to just survive. And I think, again, to give yourself permission that it is okay to not be productive if you can't. It is okay to not learn how to bake bread, for example, and that you just need to survive during this time.
Great point, Camilla. It's kind of like, giving yourself a pass, a little bit, right? With self-compassion, sometimes giving ourselves a pass, but just kind of what we can and what cannot do. This is a very traumatized time for a lot of people, just because it is very difficult for some, and allowing ourselves to kind of, be okay with that, and know our limits. How about you, Christy?
First off, I really appreciate Camilla's permission to me to not bake bread, because I don't want to. Part of me wants to. It looks so beautiful and fun, but I'm not going to. So I echo that, right? That we really want to be gentle on ourselves, give ourselves permission, and not be productive. I think there's just like so many different messages out there right now about whether you should be productive or whether you should be slow. And I think the other side of this is, if you are feeling like implementing something new, basic behavioral science is that we go towards the thing that gives us the most immediate reward, right? So maybe making some kind of system for yourself, say you want to start a new creative project. Initially, that will feel really arduous, and it will feel a lot easier to just lay on your couch and watch TV. But if you really want to do it, you might want to think about applying some incentives. So whether that's like giving yourself even just like a piece of chocolate. I know that sounds ridiculous, but something kind of nice to accompany this new experience. Because whenever you're learning new behaviors, you just want a lot of rewards applied. That makes you a lot more likely to do it in the future.
Great. James, anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, I just want to, say that, listen, many people are talking about taking on this new task and want to get this done and learn this or read this book during this time. And that's great for some, but for others, there may be things that they're thinking about a little bit harder and that they may have a hard time getting wrapped up into a task or something. So I want to just say, recognize your limitations. Don't bite off more than you can chew. Take your time, be kind to yourself. This is the time that we have to be kind to ourselves. So if we take on a task that is challenging and will make us feel as if we failed, then I wouldn't suggest you do that. But if you want to take on a task and play around with it and have some fun with it, then go for it. If it doesn't work out the way you planned, then just, take it as a lesson. But don't push yourself. Don't push yourself. Right now, the main thing to do is stay well, be safe, so that we get to this on the other side and be together again, right? That's the best thing.
Wonderful, wonderful advice, James. How about you, Aaliyah? Anything you want to add to that?
Yeah, a lot of clients have brought this up, and one client actually said they found it really helpful to just kind of shut everything off, right? Some people have gotten into a routine of waking up and turning on the TV or waking up and, trying to jump into a task that is seemingly productive. And at the end, they get frustrated because they feel like they didn't do it the way it was supposed to be done or should be done, or how people on Facebook or Instagram have done it. But maybe a good way to approach it is when you wake up, take a couple of minutes, like 2 minutes, and really just sit with yourself and try to be present with, what do I really need? If what I need right now is to watch TV and do nothing, then absolutely give yourself the permission to do that, and be okay, because your body is telling you that that's what you need, your body and your mind. So I would suggest just being a little bit present, maybe just being in the quiet if that's not too scary of a place for you at the moment, and really just try to listen to yourself.
Listen to yourself. Great advice. Let's see, we have another question from, I guess, social media that I thought, let's see. I noticed that I've been drinking more than usual, starting earlier in the day, having more than normal. Should I be concerned about this? Yes, I think I've been getting a lot of clients, talk about this a lot. So, they've been drinking a little bit earlier in the day, or doing too much of something, whether it's too much Netflix, too much drinking, too much pot smoking, too much whatever it is, too much watching news. So how do we handle that? So James, want to take a stab at that?
Sure. So first, moderation is the key, right? That's the key to everything. And during this time, so many people are, quarantined, right? So we have to be home. So we kind of tend to lose a track of time. So you may have a drink earlier than you would normally have a drink. But be mindful of that, right? Because are you having that drink just to relax, or is this a pattern that you're taking on? Is it serving something else? What are you expecting from that drink? Is it to calm your anxiety? Because there are other healthy ways to deal with that. And that goes for everything. Like, if you're overeating with chocolates or cakes or food or any of those comfort things, or smoking too much, whatever that thing is, ask yourself, what am I depending on this substance for? Is this substance, am I trying to relieve myself of something with the substance? Or like what we talked about earlier in the beginning of this, process, we talked about people not wanting to feel the suffering, right? The emotional suffering, and pushing it down. This is a way that it can come up and show up in another form through substances. So being honest with yourself, and don't lie to yourself. You know what you're doing. If you're drinking too much and too early, maybe you need to stop it, right? Maybe you need to adjust the time. Figure something out. But if you're talking about it and you're bringing it up today, which I really appreciate, and I think it's a very important question, then take a closer look at yourself and ask yourself, what am I getting from this drink?
Great.
Okay? I hope that was helpful.
Yeah, it was helpful for me, because I think you have to look, it's kind of looking inwards and kind of seeing what's the intention, what's the intention of whether it's too much TV or too much drinking or whatever it is, to kind of see if it's masking any type of feelings that maybe have. And also the thing that I said even in the prior question, giving ourselves some compassion and a pass to know that, yes, this is a difficult time, but yes, also being a little bit worried about kind of, we are creating a new routine and making sure that we're watching out for that. How about you, Aaliyah?
Definitely. It's piggybacking a lot on what James said. I use the word intentional with my clients a lot. What is the intention? And if you know that you're going for the drink or, you know, the chocolate or even just the Netflix for, you know, and you've noticed that there's a pattern and you're doing it too much or too often, I think there's also a level of shame that comes with that. And I think it's important to be present with whatever negative emotion is coming up for you. I know that some clients have said to me, I do feel shame, so I do it because if I do it, it's fine, right? Like if I do it enough or I normalize it, it can't be a bad thing. And I think being present with whatever negative emotions come up for you, but then kind of taking in that intentional aspect of, okay, I'm going to do it today. You know, I'm going to have that drink a little bit earlier and that's okay. But intentionally, I'm going to either shift that the next day or I'm going to stop a little bit earlier or whatever the case may be. Try to be really present with what's going on with you.
Great. Great. So we're about 6 minutes left of this kind of Facebook Live hour. I know there's one person, you know, who asked me, you know, actually I have several questions, you know, several clients tell me kind of if whether I'm dealing with this and if I've been finding this challenging. And of course, we're all kind of in this together and we're all kind of dealing with this and kind of, and how we're kind of dealing, right? And how are we coping? And so I guess I just wanted to maybe go around and just kind of see how each of you, just kind of in a roundtable kind of way, and how, you know, how you've been dealing, how you've been managing. I know for me, again, we've been saying this over and over, feeling your feelings. I know, you know, I think at first, you know, I was feeling, you know, obviously very grateful that, you know, I'm fortunate enough that, you know, that I, you know, healthy and living okay and all that kind of stuff and still being able to work, but also knowing that I also have feelings of frustration and disappointment, right? You know, not being able to go out to restaurants anymore. I'm just kind of owning that and really kind of sharing that out loud to myself and to family members, being able to say, I'm just disappointed. I, you know, recently have a newborn, you know, that I'm living with right now. And as a new father, being disappointed, not being able to have family members come over and see the newborn. So I think allowing myself to feel. And then the other thing that I've been doing to manage, and again, I want to hear everyone share, is this idea of kind of creating normalcy about things, you know, keeping to a routine, trying to find some way to keep things as normal as possible. I know that, you know, and reframing things, you know, to the negative, to the positive. I know I just recently celebrated a birthday and I was, you know, at first really, really frustrated with the idea like, oh, I can't do the things that I normally do on a birthday. But then I kind of said to myself, well, how could I make this as normal as possible? What could I control? There's so much I can't control, but what can I control? And so the things I was able to control on a birthday day was I was still able to get dressed up. I was still able to order from a restaurant. I was still able to kind of connect with certain friends by inviting them to a virtual thing. So really kind of allowing ourselves to control what we can. So that's kind of what I've been doing. I'm so curious to see what others are doing because like I said, so many of my clients are asking, are you dealing with this too? Of course. And so Camilla, how about you take a step at this first?
Yes. Yes. Therapists, we're human too. We're dealing with all the emotions that everyone is dealing with. Anxiety, fear, sadness, anger. I know for sure that I'm going through all the waves of emotions. And I think that's the thing that we need to ride the emotions, ride the wave, and just let ourselves feel all the feelings. And similarly to you, Joe, I've been also creating my own routine, making sure that I go to bed at a certain time, waking up at the same time, keeping my work schedule the same. And also, again, like trying to maybe dress up, and if I'm working, I'm not working from my like bed in my pajamas, just so that I bring some sense of normalcy back into my life and it feels like I'm in control of some aspects of my life. I think that's been very helpful with just my own anxiety, knowing that while I can't control the state of the world, but I can control my own life, my day-to-day routine. So that's been very helpful for me.
Great. How about you, Christy?
I love what Camilla just said because it reminded me that today I made the intentional decision to put on real pants as opposed to leggings. I'm like wearing like work style pants, which is making me feel a little bit more in my element. So I think that's such a good reminder. And I feel like a broken record, but I don't mind this record, which is that I really am allowing a lot of space for my feelings. And I think I'm a lesson I've been unlearning across my lifetime is that, you know, to be, you know, angry or sad is to not be grateful. And the truth is that you can hold both things together. Your gratitude does not cancel out all of your other feelings, and the opposite is true too. So I think that's helpful for me to remember, like keep my gratitude in view, that I am employed and I'm healthy and my family members are healthy. I get to do this incredible work with clients that is also helping me process too. And I'm sad and I'm disappointed. And all of those can exist together. And then with, you know, feeling those emotions, I think a way that I'm processing too is by doing something really physical, by doing yoga every single day. That's never been a part of my life, but it has been lately. As of yesterday, I can touch my toes for the first time in my life, which is really cool. And so doing something physical, but that also allows me to connect with myself inwardly has been really, really helpful. And just connecting with my colleagues too.
Great, Christy. So, wow, so it sounds like you created this as an opportunity, right, to learn something new or do something, you know, even put something new into your routine that maybe you wouldn't have normally have done. Great for sharing that. How about you, James?
Yeah, sure. So what I've been doing, like I mentioned in the mornings, I give myself my morning hug. So that's been keeping me going. I also keep my space clean from dust, dirt, and clutter. Having my space organized makes me feel better. I feel safer. I feel comfortable. I feel like I have some control at a time where many people don't have any, right? So this inside of my home is what I can control. And if it's clean, I can feel safer with that. I've also been trying to eat well and also monitor other things that I like to enjoy, make sure that moderation is the key. And continuing the work that I do. I love working with people. So to hear everyone's stories on a daily basis is heavy, but it's helpful. And I feel like I'm being of service to others. So I really appreciate that that dynamic continues to go well. I believe that this is one of the biggest crises in the world where mental health is being truly considered and being treated as it's important. And I really appreciate that because mental health is very, very important. And I think that I feel very privileged to have a platform where I can do this. So that makes me feel good and that keeps me going as well. And, you know, and also, you know, having a routine, you know, getting up in the morning and doing those basic things that could easily slip, right? Easily slip away, you know, oh, I'll skip a shower today. And then suddenly, you know, what does that mean, right? So doing those little basic things to make sure that I'm taking care of myself and I'm treating myself kindly, right? And that's what I encourage everyone to do. So be kind to yourself, allow space and time for your thoughts and feelings, and connect with positive people. Connect with positive people that will say good things, that will encourage you, that will make you feel good, that will tell you a good story. You know, if you've got negative family members, they're there, you know, they're there. Love them too, but connect more with the more positive experiences. That's what I encourage you to do.
Great. Thanks, James. How about you, Ashley?
Balance has been the key word for me and something I've been trying to keep in mind every single day. I think it's important to, as everyone has said throughout, you know, this event, is really making space for the feelings that we have and indulging in what we need to indulge in order to make ourselves feel good and feel safe and feel grounded. But I also recognize for me that can be a slippery slope. So if I wake up and say the thing I need to do today is watch some TV, I could find myself in front of the TV for quite a while. And so also being able to say, you know what, I know I need to do yoga today. That is one thing that I need to do every single day and something I did, you know, previously. And it's like, let's bring that back in. And let's say, even though it might feel good to sit on the couch right now, I actually know I'm going to feel better after doing this. So it's been really about kind of infusing a lot of those things that, though they may not feel like the thing I want to do in that moment, I know that coming out on the other side, I'm going to be so grateful that I did.
Great. Thanks, Ashley. How about you, Leah?
Ashley, I love what you said. And I think that's something that I will be the first to admit when this quarantine started, I did not handle it well. I jumped into as many tasks as I could. I was cleaning all the time. I was doing all of these things, and I really wasn't engaging in things that I knew would be helpful for me. So I really appreciate what you said. And I think that's really important. That's what's helped me get to a better space, mentally and emotionally, is being physical every day is what I did before the quarantine. So now it's super important to redefine what does that look like in my apartment, right? And I think that's been really helpful, but also giving myself the permission to cry randomly, to get really upset and have those random emotions come up. Whereas normally that would seem, odd or concerning, but now I see something happy and I get, upset or, just let that emotion come out. And I definitely feel better afterwards. So letting that be there is really important as well.
Great. Thanks to all of you for those great advice. I'm noticing on the chat we're continuing to get comments, and we have so many great comments that people are saying great things about us, and we really, really appreciate that. It really does mean something to me, and I'm imagining to the whole staff. And I see other questions coming in, so feel free to, if you have other questions, feel free to email us, at info@mytherapynyc, or even on Facebook if you like. We will answer those questions, and maybe we could do this again, because I really, this was a great way to connect to all of you, and even for me, with the staff and everything like that. So this is really great. I also want to give it to Camilla just to share with you, if you're not already connected to us with regards to maybe therapy, because there is, because of the difficult time, I know some people might have questions around how to connect to a therapist. As you can see, this is the 6 of us, but we have 13 of us. So, and we practice in Flatiron. So Camilla, maybe let us know some of the services that we have.
Absolutely. I want to thank everyone, our audience and my colleagues for today. And to just share that given the circumstances, all of us have transitioned into virtual work. So we are doing virtual therapy, but that means that we are accepting new clients. And I know this is a very difficult time. So please, if you are in need of help, professional help, seek out to us. We do individual therapy, couples therapy. We do trauma therapy. A few of us are EMDR trained, which is a specific type of treatment for trauma. We also have groups. Our groups are also virtual now. We also have groups for gay men. We have a co-led interpersonal group, which is mixed and open to all. And we also have our meditation and mindfulness group, which specifically, given the circumstances, we are offering it for free and online. So the next one will be on May 2nd. It's always the first Saturday of every month, and it will be through Zoom and also Facebook Live. So we will do the same, basically. It will be the same format. And that is led by one of our therapists, Zachary Modell.
How does people get connected to those?
Yeah.
Maybe let people know that. Yeah, great.
So the best way to go about this is go on our website, mytherapynyc.com, and you will see on top of the page, I believe it's on the right corner, book consultation, and you will book a 15-minute free phone consultation with myself and some of my other colleagues times, but mainly you will be connected with me, and I will ask a few questions just to get a sense of what you're looking for, and I will easily connect you with one of our therapists based on the information I get. Very easy, again, 15-minute free phone consultation that you can book online. And yeah, we're happy to help you during this time. And yeah, I think that's the best way to go about it.
Great, thanks, Camilla.
Of course.
I just want to thank all my colleagues for answering the questions today. I really, really appreciate that. And I thank all the viewers for coming. I appreciate that you guys showed up, and also on a Sunday, but also the fact that I hope that it really did, you found it helpful. As you can see that this is recorded. And so we are going to record this and put this on our website, but also, keep this on Facebook as well. And so if you know anybody who might, find some of the things that we said today is helpful, please do let people know, share it with them. And I hope that we could do something like this again, and we're always available to answer questions, whether through email, Facebook, whatever it is, social media, all those platforms. We really want to be as helpful as we can during this, especially a very difficult time. So thanks so much again for, being here. And yes, stay healthy, stay well, and be safe. And, thank you so much. Maybe all my colleagues could say bye-bye.
Bye.
Bye, everyone.
Thank you all.
Bye.
Bye-bye. Take care.